Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to inspire a world where food makes us better. Guys, today is Monday. Happy Monday. There is no better day than to start new habits, new goals, work on your aspirations. If not on Monday, then when? Guys, and today you get to be a fly on a wall listening to our amazing, fascinating, so practical and rich in tools and trackers and habits episode with Noel Andrews. So conversation with Noel Andrews, who we are living together in this co-living space in London where you live, play, work together as a community. Quite a fascinating experience, I must say. It's my first time. But anyhow, back to Noel. Noel has always been into fitness and exercise, yet it's only recently he's discovered the power of applying the habits of the science of building habits to nutrition. Through a data-driven approach, Noel has figured out what works for him, and through coaching and accountability is now exceeding the goals he's set for himself. And guys, it's through the pandemic that Noel is doing this. It's extra challenging, as we all know, but he's accomplishing quite some amazing fitness and health and nutrition goals, all with the purpose to live every day as a better version of himself, to have this awesome life experience where we feel like we're just acing it. It's just fun. We are having this amazing experience called life. So nutrition, health, taking care of yourself, mindfulness, all these practices, powerful practices, help us to be that and to live our best possible life experience. So back to Noel. He combines all of this with running two businesses. Noel is a new digital nomad, and you'll find out what that means. Noel's never happier than when having fun with family and friends, preferably combined with his love of sports like wakeboarding, snowboarding, and kitesurfing at home in England or further afield. Noel shares with you how his goal-driven passion for health and fitness is actually driven by his desire to be able to do more stuff in life, more fun stuff in life, like kite surfing or snowboarding or wakeboarding or God knows what else Noel will want to do in the future, right? And we want our bodies to be able to do that for us, with us. That's where Noel finds his motivation to keep going. Professionally, Noel runs jobrec.eu, an online hiring service providing online business owners with quality remote workers from Eastern Europe. So this conversation, guys, it's packed with practical takeaways, strategies, nutrition and fitness and trackers and routines. It's a good one, guys. You'll get a lot of value from it. Value, advice, tips that you can apply to your life, to yourself. You can try them out, test them out to see what kind of amazing results you can get when you consciously start working with some smart tools as your helpers on your self-development, self-growth. See how your life is gonna get transformed. So without further ado, please tune in to our conversation with Noel Andrews. Welcome to Food School Podcast. Today, you're going to be kind of like a fly on a wall while we are chatting with a friend of mine who I met in this collective or co-living space. If you are curious about what the co-living space is, you can look it up, the collective in London. So Noel is here. Say hi to our audience.
Hey everyone, and hey Angela, good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. So Noel is a person who you can call digital nomad, right? So can you explain to our listeners what digital nomad is in your words?
Yeah, sure. So I'm kind of a beginner digital nomad in many ways. So digital nomads are typically people that have got kind of location independence. So they're typically running online businesses or maybe freelancing, and they're kind of traveling, choosing to kind of be wherever they want to be. I'm kind of early in that stage for myself, but I've traveled pretty extensively, but working very, very hard on getting all of my kind of what I call freedom income. So it's, location independent income through kind of an online business.
Cool. And so what do you do for work, your online business?
Yeah, so I've got two things at the moment. So I do IT consultancy, so very much in the kind of corporate world, which was pretty office-based until last year. And then, wonderfully remote now, which is great. And then I also run an online job board called JobRack. So it's jobrack.eu. And that's basically where we help business owners hire really, really great remote workers, developers, designers, virtual assistants, all from Eastern Europe. So kind of out of that region of the world.
Okay. And so we're in London right now, right? And where are you from?
So I was born in London, actually, not too far from here. And then I've spent the last kind of 15 years down in the southwest of England, down in Devon. So a couple of hours away.
Okay. And now back to London.
Yeah, now back to London, yeah.
Do you like it more when you work remotely without having to see other people or be in the office, or do you like going somewhere for work?
So it's a blend for me. So I'm a people person. So I really like being with people. I like conversation. But I like the efficiency of kind of remote work in a sense. But I like the flexibility ultimately. So personally, I don't want to be tied to going to work at a certain time to a certain place. That doesn't kind of fit well with me. It's funny. That's my big thing, is all pushing for my business to support me so that I can choose when and where I work. Because if the day's sunny and it's really nice, then I want to be out in it. But if it's raining, then I kind of tailor things around that. So trying to put a lot more flexibility in that sense. Okay,
yeah, I find the same thing to be true. I'm a people person. I like meeting people, but I also love the flexibility and freedom of a digital nomad lifestyle, that you can go anywhere you want to go, spend time during your day where you want to spend it. And so we have this in common. Also, what we have in common is passion for health, fitness, healthy lifestyle. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about that aspect of your life? What are you into when it comes to health, fitness, nutrition?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been big into exercise. So I've, kind of big gym bunny kind of thing, love cardio. I'm never happier than when I'm dripping wet from a really heavy kind of sprint kind of workout. Got more and more into kind of the strength side of things over the last couple of years. And kind of from a food perspective, kind of always struggled with food from being a teenager in a sense. Buying sweets, chocolate, usual kind of stuff, but was always kind of exercising quite hard. But as you see the memes sometimes, you can't out-train a bad diet. Doesn't matter what you want to do. And so I've tried a whole bunch of different kind of, conventional diets from the books, etc. And it's only really in the last kind of 2 years through a kind of combination of accountability through a couple of different ways and habits, and figuring out what it is that kind of drives me and also the person that I want to be. That's what's made the difference for me. So for me, being a healthy person, super important. I want to be fit, healthy, strong and flexible. They're kind of my 4 kind of things that I focus on pretty hard now.
Okay, so you named all those things, being healthy, being fit. Why is it important for you exactly? What kind of benefits does it bring into your life, personal and professional? What do you think?
I think the number one's energy. Above everything else, I bounce out of bed, I feel alive, I feel really good. So energy is really important to me. If I like working out first thing in the morning, that's kind of what starts my day. If I don't, or if I can't for any reason, I kind of feel sluggish. Just kind of haven't got the blood pumping, as it were. Energy is really, really important. And ultimately, it's, I have a very active lifestyle. I like lots of different kind of sports, from snowboarding to kitesurfing, wakeboarding, hiking, all those kind of things. And I want to be able to do more and more of them. And so I don't want to be limited by, my health or kind of, a lack of fitness. And that's really important to me, especially as I, kind of get, obviously we're all getting a little bit older. I actually have to warm up these days. I never used to have to do that. But you should always warm up, obviously. So as I get older, that's kind of something that's I'm just more conscious of it. And it's kind of I want to kind of remain injury free. One of my things for this year that I'd like to get into is a little bit of beginner parkour, kind of street running, stuff like that. I just kind of want to have the best possible life and have a great life. So, I need kind of the health and fitness to support that.
health and fitness, and you mentioned a little bit about your nutrition, that you used to like struggle, maybe have not so good eating habits. So why did you decide to change that? Because for a lot of people, it's not that obvious that when you start eating healthier, for some people it means like a lot of restrictions, and some people feel like they're going to be depriving and getting less of things in life, not more. Like, why did you decide to work on that?
So why did I decide to change it? Because I wanted to be kind of slimmer, ultimately. I wanted to feel more confident about my appearance. I wanted to feel better, and also know that I was healthier as well. And that was really, really important to me. So, and like I said, I was working out really hard. But if you're then just eating rubbish, it just won't work. So there was a person that there were things that I wanted. And one of the biggest things for me, the biggest shift, was reading Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah, one of my favorite books.
Yeah, awesome book, absolutely awesome book, and awesome emails. His weekly emails are like the best email I get every week. And he talks about identity a lot, and it's like, well, who is the person that you are, or who's the person you want to become? And for me, this was a real kind of tipping point. I'd had some good success for kind of a year or so through some online accountability groups and through working with a kind of a health and fitness coach. So I was getting that accountability, but I was getting results, but it was still a struggle because I hadn't kind of fixed the mental side, I think. I would still, if I was in a supermarket and the reduced counter, that'd get me every time, because a 50p sausage roll is way more compelling than a full price one, even though I don't really like sausage rolls that much. Just the crazy kind of stuff that goes on in my mind. And I've since found out with lots of other people as well, because men especially don't tend to talk about this stuff. And so as I've become a lot more open about it and happy to talk about it, people go, oh my God, yeah, me too. And I do those. And, the whole kind of, you can't buy one cookie, so you buy 5, and then you don't want to throw them away, so you eat them all. Those kind of wonderfully terrible habits that hopefully most of your listeners don't have. So for me, it was the identity. It was figuring out, who is the person? And not that I'm trying to be a healthy person, it's that I am a healthy person. And in Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about, he basically says, when you've got a decision to make, say, if it's a healthy person you want to be, what would a healthy person do? And the answer for me, at least, is I don't have a particularly restrictive diet. If I want some cake, if I want a cookie, if I want a brownie, I'll have it. But I do go through that kind of, what would a healthy person do? Well, they'll have a brownie, but they'll have maybe a smaller brownie rather than a massive one. Or they won't have it every day. For me, life was way too short to, kind of deprive myself of the things I really want. But I've definitely discovered that the things that I thought I want aren't necessarily actually the things I want, So I've gone through a period of realising that the stuff that I used to, just consume, now I'm a lot more almost mindful about it, and I kind of recognise that actually some of these things aren't that great, don't make me feel that good. And I've found lots of other things that do. So for me, the nutrition, it was all about the identity. And just wanting to be healthier and ultimately feel confident. I want to feel good.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing you said about the identity. I guess that's where I'm coming from also. Whenever I'm trying to work a new habit, or I'm trying to get a new result in my life, I'm trying to figure out why it's important and who I want to be as a result of those choices I make from a certain identity point. So I think that's very deep and will help a lot of people to realize that you can actually choose whatever you want to choose. If you want to have cookies all day long every day, that's your choice. But then you will have to come to terms with what kind of person, who's the person is who does make that choice to prioritize cookies over their health and well-being long term. I think that's very important, and a lot of people might start thinking about that, who they are and why they want to make certain choices. Yeah. And you are incredibly, as I see, fit and healthy and have a lot of energy. You're always radiating energy, doing something, talking about doing something. It seems like it's working really well for you. And, I also love this piece about that you don't have to be all or nothing. If you want to have a cookie sometimes, it's totally fine and normal. And as long as it's a part of a healthy lifestyle overall, Like nobody's going to die because they ate a cookie, or nobody's going to get diabetes because they ate one cookie. I just, when you do a lot of cookies every single day and that's becomes a part of your routine, that's where you get all this results, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, nutrition, because we are talking about nutrition. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your routine? Like what are some guiding principles besides, having certain things in moderation instead of all or nothing? Like what are some other concepts that may be simple and maybe our listeners can use to improve their eating habits?
So super simple for me. So I am still kind of working to kind of drop just a little bit of weight. So it's, reducing my calories a little bit to the point when I'm getting the weight loss that I want. I do track my calories. I quite like it. I'm quite a numbers kind of data-driven person. I quite like that, and I don't find it a hassle. Lots of people don't need to, and that's great. So, but for me, it's just kind of keeping an eye on kind of what my intake is. High protein. So I always aim to hit 150 grams of protein a day, and I'm just around 75 kilos, so kind of 2 grams per kilo, and lots of veggies, lots of kind of fresh fruit, fresh veg, lots of greens. That's the core really for me. So always hit the protein goal. That naturally then kind of manages my macros a little bit, because if I'm hitting 150 grams of protein, that kind of takes some effort, especially now because I'm doing that through real food and not through protein shakes. Protein shakes are great. They're super, super convenient, but to be honest, if I can, I'd rather have a chicken breast or tuna or things like that. And just kind of lots of fresh fruit and veggies, and that works really well for me. I'm never happier than if I've got a really great salad that I've kind of lobbed some unusual things in there. So it might be like green beans or butternut squash or roasted onions. So I roast a lot of veg off, just making it interesting. And that's, I do have a lot of repetition in what I eat because I like the routine and I find it quite easy. And then there'll be times when I'll go for a lot of flavour. So, breakfast and lunch for me will be pretty consistent. But then dinner will be like, I always try, I love my spices, like my peri spice, things like that. Kind of making it interesting and a little bit different. But main things: protein, keep an eye on my calories, and then just fresh fruits and veggies, and quality foods wherever I can. So I don't I eat very little processed food now.
Okay. That seems to be working for a lot of people, and these are very good strategies that, people have been using for like ages before all this fancy stuff like keto or fasting came around. By the way, do you use any of these other methods like intermittent fasting or reducing your, carbohydrates or consuming carbohydrates on certain times of the day or days of the week?
I've kept it really simple. I am pretty low carb in reality, and I switched to gluten-free bread about a year ago.
Why is it, by the way?
So my coach has a view that a lot of people are maybe not intolerant to gluten, but kind of they don't know their true energy levels. And so he encouraged me to do it. I switched to gluten and gluten-free bread. And do I feel better? Not sure. Not very scientific. There's times when I think, I probably do feel a bit better. If I have, every now and again, I'll have like a really nice bit of bread. And it naturally quite stodgy. And I will feel different kind of afterwards. So gluten-free, I'm not intolerant in any way, I don't think, but maybe it helps a little bit. But no, I've tried most of the various different things out there. I've gone through all kinds of different plans. Intermittent fasting, I did the 5-2 for a while, and that was quite good. But to be honest, for me, my fundamental problem with all of the diets is that at some point they have to end, right? Unless it's really true to me. So for me, lifestyle is really important. So I'm very geared around, I want to eat in a way that supports So if I go out for dinner, breakfast or lunch with friends, then it's not a massive deal. And I can choose from the menu. What I've got better at is customizing what I really want. If I'm in a pub or a restaurant or a cafe, cafes are a bit tricky, but if it's a chef in a kitchen, I'll ask what I actually want. So if the kind of are happy to now combine things on the menu. And people in America, the Americans do this really, really well. Us Brits, not so well. We don't like to put people out, right, inconvenience them. And actually, so because I don't eat eggs personally, I'm pretty intolerant to eggs. So if I'm having breakfast out, that's often quite tricky because I don't want a full English that's got lots of kind of fat and things like that. So I will always I'll ask for kind of avocado and tomato on toast, and almost always I can get that. Maybe I'll add some ham or some bacon. But so for me it's the lifestyle and it's the making. I want to live a great life, and food's a big part of that, as is the social side. So it's finding ways to kind of fit that in and just not being afraid to ask people to, can I have a bit of that and a bit of that together? Never ever had a problem with it.
Yeah, well, that's, a really great thing that a lot of people, as you mentioned, in different cultures actually have problem with, like asking for a little bit of customization because, I don't know, they don't want to feel like they're weird or different or, that they don't fit in, especially if they're, among their friends who just eat whatever. For me personally, it's never been a problem also. And I sometimes even say to like the wait staff or whoever's serving the food that I have some intolerances or allergies just to make people feel that I'm serious about that I'm not just joking or, that they can skip this request. But yeah, that's what I do. And also I think when you feel comfortable around people, among, your friends or people who you are with, then it's not a problem because you're not afraid that you're going to be judged based on your food choices or, anything like that. So, you mentioned you are intolerant to eggs, right? How do you know that? I'm curious.
So they upset me significantly.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Your
So
stomach.
I used to eat them a lot as a child, and then probably from the age of about 10 or 11, I just get a very upset stomach. So I can eat. It's quite weird. I can eat them in other things, so like cake, it's fine, pastry, things like that. But if I ate an egg, boiled egg, scrambled egg, fried egg, it just doesn't agree.
Okay, that's just fascinating for me because my nephew has the same problem, meaning he does not eat eggs and he's now 13. And he's been like that since like very young. So he can't eat eggs by themselves, but when in something else, he's totally fine with that. I find it fascinating.
Cake, pancakes, Yorkshire puddings, all the good things, they're absolutely fine. It's all good. Just not eggs on their own.
What about other food intolerances, sensitivities? You mentioned you're not eating gluten, but maybe other food groups.
The only other one is kind of like prawns and shellfish.
Okay.
Again, just kind of similar kind of stomach doesn't agree. But yeah, apart from that, everything is all good. So I have very few restrictions. Very, very few.
You mentioned low carb. I'm always curious, because there are no hard definitions like for many of those things. So I'm always curious, like what is low carb for you?
So
when you say I'm pretty low carb.
Yeah, low carb for me is so breakfast for me will be to be kind of chicken on toast or tuna on toast. So I'll have a slice of gluten-free bread. Lunch will typically be a salad that will have some like kind of butternut squash or things like that in it with tuna. And then dinner will often not have carbs in it. So a couple of years ago, I kind of changed my habit of always having to have a jacket potato or chips or mashed potatoes, whatever it might be. And just reduce that. So a lot of the time it will just be, kind of salmon, meats, fish, etc. with, lots of veg. I still have some kind of brown rice, still have things from time to time, but if I'm out, for instance, I order a burger, I will get them to stop the fries because I'm not, the value for me in eating the fries just isn't there for me. And especially when I'm like hitting 150 grams of protein a day within the kind of calorie range that I'm currently targeting, is quite tricky if I was having lots of kind of carbs in there as well. That can be quite calorie dense. So I'm probably pretty low carb compared to many people. But when I say that, it's more around the bread, the rice, the pasta, the potatoes.
You're more mindful.
As opposed to things of, I do I'll have a skinny hot chocolate, things like that. There's sugar in that, therefore it's carbs. I don't really kind of worry about that side of things. It's just I'll probably have less of the kind of starchy type carbs. Yeah,
I love this flexibility because, a lot of people find a lot of things like low carb or even keto, intermittent fasting very restrictive because people forget that they can define what that means for themselves. And you can have a piece of toast, but maybe for dinner you're not going to be eating pasta. You're going to load up on more vegetables and more protein. So that's a very good point to have this flexibility and redefining for yourself what it means. Because ultimately what's the most important thing is what results you get. And if you're happy with it, then, anything can be okay. So.
Exactly. And it's feeling good. It's feeling good about what you're eating and not feeling restricted. So if I want to have a slice of pizza, I have a slice of pizza. It's, I just track it and I kind of, ultimately what would a healthy person do? And it's not just healthy in terms of food or kind of fitness, it's kind of healthy mind as well. There's a good analogy, people that kind of go on a diet and, say, right, I cannot eat cake. If you really like cake, that's a really terrible way to live. Constantly thinking every day, I cannot have cake. That life's too short. So you just got to find a way to kind of find a life that works for you with the results that you want.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's I think everyone should find their middle way when they can have their cake and eat it too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you just mentioned mental, health and probably mental resilience. Like you seem to be very mindful and aware of things, of why you do things and what kind of results you're getting, and how to just in general go around all of these habits, like with mindset, identity, and everything. Like, what are some of the practices that you do to cultivate that kind of awareness and mental flexibility and just I guess connection to those things in yourselves?
So I'm pretty new. So I in terms of what do, I track religiously. So I have goals, I track progress, I track my food, I track my workouts, all that kind of thing. And that kind of keeps me conscious of what am I doing. Very recently, I became aware about 2 months ago that I'm someone that if I don't see visible results, I feel like I'm not making progress. And this was I was working with a coach around kind of like beliefs and what's real. And this was really interesting. It was definitely true for me. Kind of if I didn't see the scale going down or the inches going down or my strength going up, I would feel like I'm not making progress. And I've pivoted that now to ultimately I've got a very, very firm belief now that if I do the right things, I'll get the results I want. So I am much more focused now on habit goals. So doing pull-ups 3 times a week, for instance, or doing strength training 5 times a week, whatever numbers work for you. But ultimately, if I do the right things, I cannot fail to get the right results. It will just happen. And I'm now a lot more relaxed about that. So I track a lot. I don't spend it, it's on my list to get a little bit more into kind of like yoga and actually kind of more mindful practices. I don't do meditations at the moment, but I do kind of affirmations, or what I call a manifesto. So I will write down probably about 20 things, typically first thing in the morning. These are things across all aspects of life. It includes I am a healthy person, and they kind of help me. And it's just it's like reinforcement about being, I am the person I want to be. Some of the things I'm still working on, but I'm doing the right thing, so I'll get the results I want.
Yeah, that focus on the doing, on the consistency, on the thing that is in your control. That definitely, a common thing I see a lot of around people who are aware of who they are, what they do, why they do, and are more like peaceful with, the process, not with like just pursuing things and going after things, Yeah, that's, I think, it's obviously helping you a lot. And I also love this, practice of writing down your values, your manifesto, your affirmations. It reinforces those, good habits that you do and your goals and everything. And also probably helps to focus your mind on the things that are important to you, that you're working on. So that's amazing practice. I don't do that, writing down things. I just read them. But I hear that writing them down makes them much more powerful and like effective.
Yeah, I was kind of quite anti it initially. Felt like being punished as a child, writing lines out the same thing every day. But then there's some people that I know that I really respect that do it and rave about it. So I was just like, let's just try it. And it's good. It kind of it's like a reinforcement because it's really easy for things just to slip out of mind.
Yeah, because there are also so many distractions.
Things going on.
Yeah, especially these days, news and social media, and you're constantly by your computer also, it's like everything popping up constantly. So we talked about mental practices. We talked about nutrition. What about your exercise? You mentioned that it's really important to you and you have seen quite a lot of priorities in that area too. So what are the things that you do right now and maybe you want to do more of?
Yeah, so it's kind of in 3 areas really, I guess. So I've got some particular goals and it's how I said I want to be kind of fit, healthy, strong and flexible. And so it's about, well, how do I define that? What is kind of like, I've got some habits around that. So I do a 5-minute stretch workout every day. It's the first thing I do. And that's just helping to kind of improve my flexibility. And then I do a more intense yoga session kind of once a week. And I try and find things that are considerably above my level. So balancing risk of injury, but finding things that are hard, that are going to push me. So I enjoy that. And from the kind of fitness side, so, for instance, I want to be able to run a 10K run in under 45 minutes, which is a pretty rapid time. And I'm about 46 seconds off that at the moment. So I like having, I've got some concrete goals. So 45-minute 10K. I want to be able to do 20 pull-ups. So I've never done a pull-up really before, maybe a year or so ago. Worked through a few challenges where you kind of do so many a day and so many sets. Built up, and I can get up to comfortably kind of 4 or 5 sets of 10. And then I'm now doing I think it's about an 8-week thing that just kind of builds up to being able to do 20. And so there's just things in my head that says, well, most people can't do 20 pull-ups. Most people can't run, 10K in 45 minutes. They are things that, a healthy person or a strong person, they're the kind of things that I associate. And obviously we're in lockdown at the moment, so I've got a pair of adjustable dumbbells, which are fantastic. So I can do really good kind of strength workouts where I'm staying. When I'm in the gym, again, it's a lot of strength stuff, so kind of 4 or 5 times a week. And when I get back into that, when we can get back into the gyms, as we record this in January 21, when I can get back in the gym, then I'll probably put some targets around kind of how much can I bench press, how much can I squat and shoulder press, things like that. But for me, it's coming up with that identity and saying, right, well, let's put a number against it. And when I get there, I'll want to maintain it, and maybe I'll push it a bit further. But it's almost like a baseline level. So I walk a lot. So I walk every day, always aim for at least 10,000 steps, probably 3 or 4 days a week. I'll double that. And then I like a good cardio workout. So again, fast runs, fast sprints, things like that. But I'm also really big on efficiency. So if I can do a high intensity workout, always my preference. So, 30 minutes, really, really high intensity rather than, an hour and a half. So if I can do kind of compound movements that we're using multiple muscles at the same time, then all the better.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of training, but what I like about it is you're very intentional about that. It's probably also, partly coming from reading this book, Atomic Habits, and realizing that if you want to improve something, like your strengths, your flexibility, your fitness, then you got to make it measurable, concrete, and you got to put it on your schedule. So as you mentioned, if you want to be more flexible, then you got to do some stretching. It's not going to come by itself from just wishing it. So that I think not a problem, but an issue for a lot of people. People make this, resolutions. We're in January 2021, as you mentioned. But then people never make them concrete. It's like, I want to eat healthier, or even things like, I want to drink more water. But what does it mean exactly? Like, what does eating healthy mean for you, and how are you going to do it daily this year? Or what does drinking more water means? How much water, when? And what I find, once people put those, measurements, once they put things on their schedule, they almost always get better at that. Maybe not, perfect, but better for sure. So that's an amazing thing. And so did you learn it just from Atomic Habits book or from a lot of other resources?
I was doing a lot of tracking before that, and I've spent through my corporate career and the kind of consulting I do, lots of stuff around SMART goals. So being specific and measurable is really, really important. And just start small. That's the key thing. So, if someone wants to come drink more water, we'll start and say, right, I'm going to drink 2 litres of water and track it, right? So have a tick sheet next to your desk or something like that. Have a really visible. So there's tons of apps, and, we've talked about this, Angela, there's great apps that you can use. But actually for me, there's nothing better than sticking something to the fridge or sticking something to the cupboard door and checking it off every day, making it really visible in front of you until you build the habit. And I do that all the time. Whenever I want to build a new habit, I will put it onto this tick sheet and put it in. And I have that tick sheet. It goes into my spreadsheet at the end of every week when I do a review. But having it visible, that you can see the streak as well. So you can see that, right, I've done 2 litres of water every day for 3 days. Great, well, I'm not going to break it. Some days you might break it, something might happen. But basically, the rule that I've kind of come across is, never miss twice. So if you miss one day, just make sure you absolutely hit it the next day. Don't let that become a streak. But yeah, a visible, create a goal, kind of a number, but just make it easy on yourself. Don't, if you're not drinking very much water now, don't set yourself a target to drink 4 litres. Right? Start at 2, or whatever it might be. But that's, for me, it's just, reasonable goals, hit them, then increase them, but just track it and tick it off. Because we all, there's a reason that we use star charts and tick sheets and trackers like that for children, because it makes them feel good. Well, I'm not averse to a gold star. So, and I have rewards, and there's rewards that I put in place and have done, so that, right, if I do, and it used to be based on achievement of something like a weight or something like that, and I've changed that, and that was fine, but sometimes actually, there's reasons why you might have worked really hard, you might not hit it, and it can be quite demotivating. So for me, it's much more now about habit tracking and saying, right, if I do this thing for 30 days, then I'll do a reward. I'll have a reward. And so I think rewards are really important, because it is hard. Right? And if you're trying to make a change, I find clothes are now a really good reward for me. Like kind of, and I have literally cleared out my entire wardrobe in the last 6 months as I'm feeling better, and the stuff just didn't fit. And when basically your clothes and the things you wear should make you feel great. And someone once told me a little while ago, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a no.
Yeah.
So, do you feel good wearing that kind of whatever item it is? And if it's hell yeah, brilliant. If it's not, change it. And so that can be really great reward. So I've started to kind of level up in the kind of things I'm buying. Stuff that makes me feel good.
Okay. Yeah, that's, rewards. It's a great strategy. The only thing I would add as a coach that I learned actually quite recently from Tiny Habits book, rewards, for them to help you to actually stick with your habits much, much better, you gotta do a rewarding behavior right after doing the habit or while doing the habit. So for example, if you did so many steps or sets, or you, did something really well nutrition wise, you gotta high five, good job. And that helps your brain to release more dopamine, and dopamine helps us to stick with things, good or bad. Dopamine is a pleasure neurotransmitter. So the more we feel it, the more our brain memorizes that thing that is happening at the same time with it, and the more we start doing of that. And so for it to be released and being associated with that specific habit, we need to celebrate right at the moment. And you gotta make yourself feel really good, whatever it takes. For different people, it's different things. So just, wanted to mention. So besides all these rewards that are a little bit delayed in time, you might want to incorporate those other rewards that you do right at the moment.
Yeah, celebration is huge. Whether it's tiny wins or, big things, always celebrate stuff. So
yeah, I find, a lot of people find it's difficult to stick with things because they forget to celebrate, to acknowledge that they did this progress, even though the scale might not show a lot. But you did that, consistency, doing things, that's got to be celebrated, probably even more than the results.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Noel, you do all these things that take a lot of time and energy and, consistency and focus. Do you find it more or less challenging into situations, working as a digital nomad, working for someone, but also having to manage your own business? So in that situation, but also through this whole pandemic thing. So, let's share with us.
Yeah, so kind of when traveling, it's tricky. Okay, so, I would typically have, have a routine at home, and then I'd travel a couple of days every fortnight with work. And then you're faced with a whole different set of challenges. And so at home, it might be the biscuit tin or chocolate chips, things like that, because, my stepsons, etc., those kind of things are always around. If you can control that and not have them around it's a lot easier. So a lot of it's about routine, and it's about when you're moving outside of your routine, for me, I have to be a lot more intentional with it. So if I'm going to be traveling for a few days, I will have some particular plans of what I'm going to do for particular meals. So it might be that I say, right, I'm actually going to have a protein shake for breakfast, or I'm going to just do something different. Or if I'm traveling and I'm going to be traveling over meal times, then I'm going to say, right, I'm going to go buy somewhere a salad, for instance, so I can, keep some kind of structure to it. So it's about being intentional, I think. In terms of the pandemic, so for me, when we had our first lockdown here in the UK, I really wanted to kind of, it was during this kind of spring and summer here in the UK, and there was an opportunity there. So I bought we bought a TRX set, We bought a pull-up bar, dips bars, fitted them in the garden, and I kind of almost just doubled down onto it. And so actually that March to July time in 2020, I made some huge progress, which was awesome, and it kind of felt really good. And it's just little things like, I wasn't traveling 20 minutes to and from the gym, so I just had more time. It just requires you to be a lot more intentional about it. I then ordered some adjustable dumbbells from China that took like 2.5 months to arrive, but they're brilliant and they're worth their weight in gold. So you just have to put that effort in it and plan it, and potentially get help. That's where, so I was able to just lean into my coach and say, right, that accountability side of things, the workouts planning, I didn't have to think about that. And that for me, some would see it as a big luxury and an extravagance, but for me, it's kind of, well, there's a person I want to be and there's a person I am, and I can choose what I give my time to. So should I spend my time planning my workouts and making sure I've got variety there? Or should I focus it on my friends, my family, and my business and let someone else do that? And it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. A lot of people see like coaching or some sort of training with somebody else as additional, expense or something to be avoided. But I think that people forget that money is ultimately nothing in life. They don't bring anyone happiness. But if you invest them in creating tools or, like coaches or other, services or tools that give you time, give you more quality time, with people that you value, or more time for doing things you love, or more confidence and energy because they help you to become that next version of yourself, right? Like whatever it takes, you have the opportunity, the ability to invest into that. Why not? Because again, you're not going to bring money with you into the grave, but it for sure feels better when you live your life as, doing what you love with your time, being the kind of person who you want to be. Thank you for sharing, this piece also.
It's worth noting that before I kind of got my kind of health and fitness coach, I'd outsourced tons of things in my business, but never personally. I'd not invested, and it was a big deal. And I spoke to people at all ranges of the price range, and I was amazed at how much you can pay for coaching. And thrilled because the fact that that's a thing that you can pay well into 4 figures for coaching in the normal world, not getting into kind of celebrity world or anything like that. And so for me, it was a significant investment, but it was that, I guess the question that I'd always ask is kind of, if you could click your fingers and, pay an amount of money to be, the weight you want to be, have the appearance you want to be, have the body you want to be, and you could do that tomorrow, would you pay the money? And if the answer is yes, then the only difference is just it's going to take a bit longer. Mm-hmm. But so for me, it was a huge investment. And, I had 15 years of not getting the results I wanted to be able to look back on and go, no, this is the time and, let's do it. And I'd recommend it to anyone, any day in the world.
Yeah, another point, thank you for sharing this, but another point that I like to make to people is like, you have the ability to buy a bag, or a piece of clothing or whatever that is. And you have the ability to invest into the service, this coaching person, this tool that will make you better. Why do we often choose that bag, or that easier thing that will, give us satisfaction right now, but in the long run, like in a week, in a month, this bag, this thing, it will mean nothing to you. And the thing that you're going to be left with is yourself and what you invested into. And I think, if more people understood that, I think it's just the delayed response, the rewards of investing into coaching, into something you do, into bettering yourself, that makes it a little bit more difficult to realize the value of this bag, or that coaching that you might invest in. Anyhow, I'll be mindful about your time, Noel. It's been a long conversation, fascinating for sure. I'd talk to you for a couple of hours more. Last few words, thoughts, like, is there anything else you'd like to share with maybe fellow digital nomads or people in general, also in this pandemic, trying to get healthier and fitter? So if you have anything to share, please do so.
No worries. I think the main thing I'd say is, figure out what's important to you, and who you want to be. What's the person you want to be and what's the life you want. And that's been huge for me pretty recently. And actually lockdown, there's never been a better time to focus on like health and fitness and kind of nutrition, because we're not going out for drinks, we're not going out for meals and things like that. So actually there's a tremendous opportunity right now. But ultimately figure out what's important to you, and then either put the time and be intentional about figuring out how to achieve that yourself, or get help. There's plenty of people out there that can kind of help with that, but you've got to be intentional about it. You've got to really want it. Read Atomic Habits. That's probably the single biggest thing for me. Read Atomic Habits and sign up to James Clear's emails. That's huge fan.
Any other tools by any chance, like maybe trackers or something else that you personally like to use?
So MyFitnessPal for kind of food tracking, Train Heroic for workout tracking, which is absolutely brilliant. I've moved to that recently. That's really, really good. And then, to be honest, just Google or Pinterest for habit trackers, right? There's loads of really attractive sheets. Print one out, write the habits down the left, tick the boxes each day. And that's how I started, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to join on this advice. Tracking your consistency using tools, using other resources is one of the most powerful habit amplifier that one can, get into, invest into, or start using. So thank you for this advice. I'll be sure to link everything that you mentioned in the show notes. And also, if people want to connect with you, maybe ask something, or is there a better way to do so?
Best way is, probably best to head to jobrack.eu and then contact me through there.
Cool. And we're going to link that in the show notes too. So thank you, Noel, for your time, for this amazing conversation. I learned a lot for sure. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners who have their health, fitness, and other goals also learned a lot. So thank you for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks, Angela.